The Jets continue to roll after a fifth straight win as they get set for a playoff preview against the Avs on Saturday. Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Jets Setting. Rob Wong joining alongside by Winnipeg Sun Jets writer Scott Billeck and Winnipeg Sun sports editor Ted Wyman. And guys, when we spoke last week, you talked about how you needed to see the Jets continue to search for the style of play that they had earlier this season. And since then, they're now up to 5 consecutive wins. Their latest victory, the most impressive, a 3-0 shutout win over the division-leading Dallas Stars. Scott, after watching that performance, do you feel like the Jets have found what they were looking for?
I mean, I think they have to bottle what they had in Dallas, that's for sure. I mean, that game was something that we hadn't seen around these parts in a long time. They played a game that got them 34 straight games with allowing 3 goals or less. Like, that game was exactly what they need to play if they want to have any sort of success in the playoffs. You'd feel a little better about it if they didn't play the game that they played in Nashville 2 nights earlier. And I think that's sort of the thing that you don't understand always about this team is that, why does it look so poor one night and just so unbeatable the next? And that's sort of what I took from that game. It's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, they've won 5 straight, but their fourth win in that was very lucky and very goalie centered. I mean, if they didn't have Connor Hellebuyck making 45 saves in that game, they wouldn't have been anywhere close. And everybody on that team, to a man, said that after the game. So I think what they did against Dallas was a big step because it reminded them that they can do it against a team like the Dallas Stars, who had 50 wins, who are top of the Central, who are fighting for a President's Trophy. That's a big boost for this Jets team. But the big test now, and Dallas was a big test, and they've had a few tests here because they lost 6 straight before winning these 5 in a row. But their next big test is now doing it against Colorado. Like, when you get into the playoffs, you need to be able to do this 4 times, right? Like, you need to be able to do this every second night to have a chance to win. And you have to do it 16 times to win a Stanley Cup. So the biggest thing about this Jets team since the end of January has been consistency. They've lost that, and they need to be able to do it consistently. If they can do it against Colorado, I think that'll be another good step in the right direction. And I think that would be a good statement for this team heading into what is likely a first-round series against the Avalanche.
Ted, how are you feeling about this team after that win over Dallas?
Well, it was a great win over Dallas. They played fantastic. As Scott said, if you can bottle that up and play it every night, I mean, then you truly are a Stanley Cup contender. Because if you can beat a team that would have, had Dallas won that game, they would have been in the lead for the President's Trophy. I mean, that's how good the Dallas Stars are. So, it's a really strong performance. But I don't think my belief that the Jets can go into these playoffs and lose in 4 straight or go on a long run has changed, because they've been so inconsistent. You lose 6 in a row and then you win 5 in a row, right? Like, they've had these kind of stretches lately, and you look at it and you say, well, you just hope that the good stretch comes at the right time if you're a Jets fan, because if the bad stretch comes at the wrong time, then this team could bow out very easily, because they have had this tendency to just slip into periods of not very good play overall, not good defensive structure, and looseness with a lot of their passing and situations like that, giveaways in the neutral zone that are so costly. As Scott pointed out, they really didn't look good against Nashville, but pulled that win out. And of course, that's the kind of thing good teams do during the course of a season, is you win games that maybe you're not supposed to win. But the game against Dallas, nobody could argue that Winnipeg wasn't the better team on that night. They were. I think it gives people here probably a lot of hope that the Jets can still come out of the Central Division, because the notion of beating both Colorado and Dallas to get out of the Central is pretty daunting. It would be for any team, and the Jets are a good team, but those are 2 extremely good teams as well. But I think this last win probably gives people a little bit more hope. And heading into a weekend matchup with Colorado, potentially home ice advantage on the line, it's nothing but a positive at this moment.
Well, the hope might go through the roof if the Jets can pick up an impressive win over the Avalanche on Saturday, as you mentioned, guys. But just 3 games remaining here in the regular season, and that game tomorrow against the Avs is going to be what people like to call a measuring stick game. And Ted, when you look at these two teams and how they match up, they've only played a couple of times so far this season. This will be the third and final matchup of the year. But how do you think the Jets match up against a high-powered Avalanche team that is pretty top-heavy?
It's kind of, it's interesting because head to head, it's been a while since they played, and the Jets won the games against them earlier in the season. But does that mean that they'd have an advantage against them in the playoffs? I don't know that it does. I mean, Colorado's got a very solid team. I mean, and solid is not even a strong enough word because they've got a superstar in Nathan MacKinnon who's just had an incredible year and is just got that physique and that strength and that ability, that whole package that probably makes him an absolutely outstanding playoff performer. And how are the Jets going to handle a guy like that? That is a huge question. But I think everybody knows that that's why this battle for second place in the division is so important, because if you can get home ice advantage, you can get your matchups all day long. And if the Jets can get Adam Lowry on Nathan MacKinnon as often as possible, 4 of the games having their own matchups as opposed to only 3 of them, that could make a huge difference. It's not that they're just about MacKinnon. They're an incredible team. They've got great scorers all through the lineup. They've got Cale Makar, who's absolutely world-class defenseman. I think maybe the Jets would have an advantage in goal with Connor Hellebuyck because he's just been the best goalie in the league this year, and the Jets should have an advantage on everybody with the best goalie in the league on their side. But I don't think that you can look at a matchup with Colorado ever and say that you're going to pick a clear favorite. These two teams have played a lot over the years. They battle, and I think it should make for a fantastic game on Saturday with second place potentially on the line and going forward into a series that, I believe should be hotly contested right to the end.
Yeah, and I did misspeak earlier. The Jets are 2-0 against the Avs this year, as Ted mentioned. But Scott, it's been a while. Those 2 games were in a couple of weeks span. They're back in December. A lot has changed for both of these teams. But how do you think that the Jets match up against the Avs?
I mean, if they play like they played in Dallas, then they will beat the Colorado Avalanche. That was the thing. Like you said, both those games are back in December, and the Jets were playing their best hockey back then. And that made a big difference. I mean, now I know if you look, Colorado's a different team at this point. They picked up Jonathan Drouin. They got Casey Middlestad. They picked off, some guys in that team. I think the biggest thing that the Jets have going for them in this game and this series is the goaltending situation. It's pretty lopsided in favor of Winnipeg. They have probably this year's Vezina winner between the pipes, and Colorado has Georgiev, who hasn't had a great year, but Colorado is one of these teams that they can make up for it by scoring a lot, and that's what they do. Nathan MacKinnon is going to be in the running for the Hart Trophy. He is likely, I wouldn't say likely yet, but he'll be up there, either first or second this year in that voting process, and so they have him. But they have other waves of guys, right? And that's the thing. They got Nikushkin, they got Rantanen when he gets healthy again, and their defense with Cale Makar and Taves and guys like that. It's really good back there, and so they have waves of offense that come at you. And speed is one of their big things, right? Jets know how to beat these sorts of teams, though, and Ted sort of referenced it with Adam Lowry's line. Like, they can do a good job. That line does a great job in the Western Conference or against another Western Conference team, the Edmonton Oilers, and they've done a really good job shutting down Connor McDavid before and Leon Draisaitl. So I think home ice advantage is a big thing. This game likely decides that. I mean, if the Jets can win this game, they put a 2-point buffer between themselves and the Avalanche with a game to give then, because the Jets own the tiebreak. So this game has a lot on the line in terms of not just, making a statement or seeing where they are on the measuring stick, but also playoff implications and starting at home and everything Ted said about that. So, I think that's they can beat this Colorado team playing the way they did in Dallas, playing the way they did through the first 40-odd games of this season. If they play like they did on Tuesday, though, they would get ran out of the building there in Denver. So that's what we have to wait and see. We'll see what team shows up on Saturday, and if it's the Thursday night Jets, they'll be just fine. If the Tuesday night ones, look out, because Colorado can do some damage. So yeah, excited to see what's going to happen, because this is sort of the Jets. You never know what you're going to get, and we'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah, it's been a wild last couple of weeks for this team, and should be a heck of a game on Saturday against the Avs. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Scott Billeck and Ted Wyman, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.